King Charles didn't merely halt a royal procession. He accidentally revealed a power struggle nobody was ever supposed to witness. The Garter procession was supposed to unfold with perfect precision. Every footstep had been practiced, every position finalized, every royal separated by rank and tradition. Then Camilla moved. She stepped toward the narrow space between William and Catherine, and King Charles suddenly raised his hand. The procession froze. Music stumbled. Faces shifted. In that frozen instant, a private battle over status became impossible for the monarchy to hide. And just like that, everything unraveled. What should have remained silent tradition suddenly felt deafening, suspicious, almost rehearsed, yet it wasn't because nothing about that moment happened accidentally. King Charles knew exactly what that space represented. That narrow gap between William and Catherine wasn't merely physical. It was symbolic. It represented the future. The next reign, the image of unity the monarchy has desperately fought to protect. Yet Camilla walked directly toward it as though it belonged to her. Why? Because this wasn't confusion. This wasn't misplacement. This was a calculated move. And William recognized it immediately. There was no panic, no raised voice, no dramatic scene, only a subtle, controlled, deliberate step closer to Catherine. A silent refusal, a message without speaking. This line stays exactly here. But Camilla refused to step away. That's when everything intensified. King Charles didn't pause. No consultation, no discreet correction, no backstage whisper. He raised his hand and stopped the entire procession before absolutely everyone. Guests, officials, cameras, history itself. And that decision, it wasn't emotional. It was completely calculated. Because this wasn't simply about where Camilla stood. It was about what she appeared determined to change. Moments earlier, everything had been perfectly aligned. William and Catherine stood together as a united force, sending a powerful visual message of continuity, stability, and control. But Camilla had been watching, waiting, focused not on her own position but on theirs. That's the part nobody wants to acknowledge, because what kind of move is that? What kind of message does it send when the queen consort doesn't simply accept her place but attempts stepping into someone else's? And here's where everything becomes even more unsettling. This didn't begin during the procession. It had already happened 12 days earlier behind closed doors. No. Cameras were absent, no public, only a rehearsal inside St. George's Hall. Quiet, controlled, completely official. And that's exactly where Camilla made the request. Not a suggestion, not a tiny adjustment, but a direct demand. She wanted William and Catherine separated. Let that truly sink in. She didn't ask to walk closer to King Charles. She didn't request a better position. She wanted to stand between them, to fracture that image, that unity, that message. Why would she do that? Because that image threatened her. Because as long as William and Catherine stood together, they represented something greater than her role ever could. And William understood it instantly. My wife remains beside me. Simple words, yet completely final. No space for negotiation. No room for reinterpretation. Camilla pushed back. Naturally, she did. She asked whether it was preference or instruction. And William's answer? Both. That moment didn't simply end one discussion. It ignited a conflict. Because when King Charles entered that room and noticed the silence, the tension, the broken rhythm of control, he already sensed something had gone wrong. But even then, he didn't completely shut it down. He preserved the original arrangement, yes, but he never confronted the motive. And that silence, that hesitation, gave Camilla another chance to try again, which is exactly what she did. A second walking plan was quietly requested, never officially approved. Yet somehow it still appeared on the day of the procession. That's not coincidence. That's persistence. That's intention. So when Camilla stepped forward during the actual event, she wasn't testing the moment. She was carrying out a plan. And King Charles, He was prepared this time because by then he understood something he hadn't wanted to accept earlier. This wasn't about ceremony. This was about power. Real power, visible power, future power. And the moment Camilla tried placing herself between William and Catherine publicly, it forced King Charles into a position he had been avoiding. He had to choose, not between people, but between meanings, protect his wife's dignity, or protect the structure of the monarchy itself. And with that single raised hand, he made his decision. But what nobody witnessed, what nobody heard was what happened afterward. Because once those doors closed, once the procession resumed, once the cameras lost sight of everyone, the instant those doors closed, the silence wasn't peaceful. It was heavy, suffocating, like something deeply buried had finally been dragged into the open. King Charles didn't wait. No ceremony, no gentle tone, no royal cushioning of words. He made it unmistakably clear the line had been crossed, and not merely physically. Camilla hadn't simply stepped forward. Camilla had challenged the structure itself. And William watched every second unfold, never reacting loudly, never interrupting, simply observing, calculating. Because this wasn't only about what Camilla did. It was about how King Charles would respond when there was no audience left to impress. Catherine stood perfectly still, composed, yet her silence wasn't passive. It was controlled, deliberate, because she already understood something the others were still struggling to realize. This wasn't ending here. Camilla broke first. She didn't deny the movement. She didn't downplay it. She defended it. She questioned why standing closer, why stepping forward, why adjusting the formation should be treated like some outrageous violation. But that's exactly where everything changed, because King Charles didn't argue about movement. He focused on meaning. He made it unmistakably clear Camilla didn't move toward him. Camilla moved between William and Catherine, and that distinction changed everything because one is proximity, while the other is disruption. And Catherine spoke, not loudly, not emotionally, but with precision. She didn't question the action. She questioned the intention behind it. Why separate a couple representing the future of the crown? That question didn't require an answer. It exposed one. Camilla's response wasn't calm. It couldn't be because the truth beneath it was deeply uncomfortable. This wasn't about ceremony. It was about visibility, position, relevance, and William stepped in immediately. Not aggressively, not dramatically, but firmly. He shut down every attempt to redirect the blame toward Catherine because this was never Catherine's move to defend. It was Camilla's move to explain. Then King Charles did something that completely shifted the balance. He introduced the document, the unauthorized procession chart. Physical proof this wasn't a spontaneous decision. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This had been planned, prepared, attempted twice. Camilla didn't respond. And that silence said more than anything else possibly could because in that moment, William and Catherine understood something clearly. This had been building long before the procession ever began. And King Charles, he had already prepared for it. That sealed folder wasn't merely precaution. It was a line, a written, signed, undeniable boundary defining exactly where Camilla could stand and where she could not. And the consequences, they didn't wait. They arrived quietly, almost invisibly, but one by one they accumulated. Engagements removed, appearances adjusted, positions reassigned, not announced, not explained, but unmistakably felt. Because power within the monarchy isn't always taken loudly. Sometimes it's quietly reduced instead. And Camilla felt it immediately. Not through confrontation, not through arguments, but through absence, through the gradual disappearance of moments where she had once stood at the center. Meanwhile, William and Catherine didn't escalate. They didn't demand consequences. They didn't push further. And that restraint was strategic because by remaining still they forced King Charles to keep acting, and he did. A message to Catherine. Short, direct, without decoration. Her place beside William was never in doubt. That wasn't reassurance. That was confirmation. And Camilla understood exactly what it meant the moment she noticed the changes surrounding her. Because this wasn't temporary. This wasn't emotional fallout. This was structural. A boundary that had finally been enforced. But here's the part that lingers. Even after the public moment, even after the private confrontation, even after the silent consequences, no apology arrived, no reconciliation was displayed, only adjustment, only distance, only acceptance of something that could no longer be negotiated. And when the next appearance came, the formation told the entire story without speaking a single word. King Charles beside Camilla, William beside Catherine. No movement, no interruption, no attempt to cross the line again, because now everyone understood exactly where it stood. But the real question isn't what changed that day. It's what had already been changing long before that single step forced everything into the open. And if one moment could expose this much tension, then how much more still remains hidden, waiting for the next crack to finally reveal it?